This story is all about the child that was born in fire. Izuku Midoriya was born in a world of quirks, other known as superpowers, or superpowers other known as quirks, and he was born, well, in a way that many did not understand. Izuku Midoriya wanted to have a child so badly, but unfortunately, when her pregnancy would fail, she would hope, she would wish that one day she could still have a child, and weirdly enough, that wish would eventually come true. But it would come true in a way she wouldn't have expected. One day, her house would light a fire, her house would begin burning, and she would have to make a decision. What does she do? What does she save? And until now, she didn't have much to really think about or much to really save in the first place. She was gonna walk out of the house basically scot-free, not getting hurt at all, but then she hears something. A baby crying, and she would run in and see the baby surrounded by flames. She would immediately run over to him, trying to scoop him up, even basically running through the flames herself and carrying the baby that seems to be on fire out of the house. She would get him out of the house, and the night sky itself, the coldness, would make it so the baby wouldn't even, feel like it's cold. Even though outside it's so chilly, it's so honestly extremely cold, he would still be burning up as if the fire still remained within him. Izuku Midoriya was born out of the fire from this household, born from something that is unordinary. And Inko, she's not even questioning it, doesn't even think about why or how this child even came about, but now she has the child. Now she has the child she so longed for, and her life is going to change forever because Izuku has powers beyond belief, powers that are even godly. And Izuku Midoriya, yes, he would go through normal childhood. No one would speak of what occurred. She would get a new apartment from basically an insurance check that basically insured the house and stuff like that. So she would have plenty of money, at least for the moment, to get an apartment, get a new job that she needs to get, and stuff like that. And she begins raising this child, naming him Izuku Midoriya, and basically sending him to school, doing all these things. And eventually his powers would start showing. The powers of the fire, that he was basically born in. And Izuku shows these powers to be insanely powerful. The powers he has seem to be off the charts. The doctors say that he is extremely gifted, and he got very lucky. They got very lucky just to make sure that he doesn't do anything crazy, right? He doesn't hurt people. He doesn't do this. He doesn't do that. And one day, when he's older, when he's practicing using his powers, his mother would actually get caught in the crossfire, getting hit by a blast of fire. But as she does, she gets sent back to the ground, but there's no burning sensation. There's no hurting. There's no nothing. And she's confused. How does this even make sense? This makes no sense. What's going on? And then Izuku and her realize that he can control who is hurt by the flames. He can control the flames in a way that no one else could really ever control fire power in the first place. And Izuku's control over this fire, well, like I've said before, it's borderline godly. And Izuku continues to show this power off while he's training, while he's working, while he's basically try to understand them even further, right? And Izuku Midoriya would continue throughout his middle school years, and eventually would get to his ending of middle school, or at least towards the end of middle school, where his teacher would tell him or tell everybody that they know that he knows all. No, none of them want to be normal, job, or they don't want to get normal jobs. They all want to be heroes. So of course, he's gonna throw away the career aptitude test because he knows they all want to try out to be heroes. In which Bakugo and Izuku are the only ones that are going to try out for UA. Now, Bakugo in this case is pretty jealous of Izuku. I mean, he has a similar quirk to Bakugo himself, but he really, honestly, is one of the most popular people in their school and one of the most popular people ever, with girls and everybody swooning over him and honestly thinking that he's just awesome. I mean, his quirk, it's so amazing. He could do this, he could do that. I mean, he could literally light people on fire and they don't even get hurt. It's like as cool as ice, the fire that hits them. And Bakugo himself, he's jealous of this. He thinks that this is right here, or this right here is the only person that he's going to have to take down. That he's going to have to take down Izuku and make sure that he knows his place. Make sure that Izuku knows that Katsuki Bakugo is better than him. That he wants to make sure that he is known or showing that he is flat out better, at least than Izuku. And of course, this isn't gonna fly with Izuku because Izuku knows how good he is. He knows the level of power that he's at, and he's not going to just let it go down and to let Bakugo just push him around. And Izuku makes sure to stand on his feet, stand tall against someone like Bakugo. And of course, this would lead to a couple arguments here and there, but eventually it would calm down. And Izuku would actually head home that day, wondering why Bakugo is such a freaking asshole. But while he's heading home, he goes through or underneath a bridge or through a tunnel of some sort. Normally he doesn't go through this way, but he's trying to, kind of write down some extra things, figure some extra things out. And this is when he would face off with the sludge villain. Facing off with a sludge villain who is looking for a body to inhabit and also take so that he can get away from whatever is chasing him. And Izuku, well, he's not having it, because when the sludge villain chases after him, Izuku would immediately set him ablaze, and he would hold the sludge villain basically still and begin absolutely incinerating him. And the little bits of him begin to burn off, and he begins to kind of turn into different little bits of sludge, and eventually Izuku stops when the sludge villain is just in pieces. Izuku tells him that he's lucky that he didn't continue burning him alive, and he decided to, let him off easy. But he tells him to not hurt anybody ever again, and he's going to be behind bars for a very long time. And well, All Might agrees, because All Might would come out of nowhere and say the same thing, saying that yes, that he will be behind bars for a long time, and that what the kid did was pretty damn impressive. Izuku would be shocked to see this. I mean, this is All Might. He's still extremely a big fan of All Might, and thinks, oh, All Might's the best, blah blah blah. And he basically asked All Might a bunch of questions, asking him, what's the best course of action for him to be a hero and do this and do that, in which All Might basically recommends him to go and try for the UA entrance exam. With the power he just portrayed, I mean, come on, he should easily be able to get in which Izuku thinks, you know what, you're right, I'll be able to get in which they talk for a brief moment, and then obviously All Might would jump off and leave. Now, after leaving, Izuku, all he's thinking about is studying and also training for the UA entrance exam. And that's all he does, just train and study for the next 10 months. That is legitimately all Izuku does. And he prepares himself for whatever is going to happen and whatever is going to come of the UA entrance exam. And he's excited. And as he's walking up, as Izuku is headed to the building, where the entrance exam is being held, he's just absolutely hyped up for this, that he even trips over and almost falls straight on his face. But luckily someone is there to actually catch him, someone by the name of Ochaku Araka, who utilizes her quirk to have him hover, in which Izuku, thanks her for not letting him, go splat on his face. But he does say that he was going to save himself with, his ability to somewhat fly with his fire. But that does work out. He appreciates the help and says that he'll he definitely owes her, eventually. In which she's like, oh no, it's really no problem at all, and blah blah blah. But Izuku would head off before she could say much more, and he would prepare for whatever President Mike has to offer, and also what he has to say, being that he is, talking about the written portion of the exam, he's talking about the practical, he's talking about this and that, and eventually all of it is all said and done. Written portion would then be fulfilled, and then the practical would begin. And Izuku himself, well, he's excited. He is just biting at the kind of like the idea, and honestly hungry at the idea of being able to push himself to a different level of power, being able to extend himself to a new level of showing off the power that he normally can portray. And this excites Izuku Midoriya, and when the gates fly open, he flies out of them with his fire, just turning over and basically incinerating all of these different kind of robots and or kind of these machine-like kind of robotic kind of practice dummies, you could even call them. But yeah, I mean, they are robots, or to an extent kind of robotic things, and they are destroyed. I mean, Izuku literally lights them all on fire, burning and incinerating every last one of them. And everyone's like, whoa, like they can't even get close to this fire, until one of them realizes the fire's not even hot. It's only burning the robots, and only burning these kind of like robotic people, or robotic kind of machines. And it seems insane. They walk through the fire and it doesn't hurt them, doesn't burn their clothes, doesn't do anything. Izuku only making it so that it inflicts the robots, and it's all gone. And then eventually the 0 Point robot would arrive, and Izuku would do the same thing, incinerate it entirely, and it melts in its place. But again, even the giant sculpture of fire basically that was created, well, it doesn't feel hot. Everybody's watching in awe, and they're thinking, well, obviously we're not going to pass the test right now, but they're also thinking like, this guy, he's insane. How is he able to do this? How is he able to create such an insane amount of fire? How is he able to create such an insane amount of, like things happening, and an insane amount of like power being displayed, but there's no kind of repercussion? It seems like it's not hurting anybody else. It seems like it's not burning anyone else, and it seems like it's not affecting anyone else. And this is kind of insane to think about, but at the end of the day, they're just absolutely in awe at the fact that Izuku Midoriya has just showed a new level of power that no one has seen in a long time. Not even Endeavor might even stand a chance against comparing the firepower of someone like Izuku Midoriya. And that is the reality of it. Izuku Midoriya's power might even uphold higher standards than even Endeavor. And not just at this point, an Endeavor at his peak, an Endeavor who is currently borderline one of the top heroes in Japan, and probably the entire world. And everybody is watching in complete and utter awe. And well, let's just say they eventually have to decide to, calm down and say like, hey, okay, everyone's going to get their chance. Don't worry. They pull Izuku aside and say, well, they're going to have to actually prepare another exam for the rest of the students. And Izuku even apologizes, but they tell him, no, it's fine. Listen, kid, I mean, you did some extraordinary things out there. You should not feel sorry for doing any of those things. And they basically tell him that they'll be seeing him very soon, and to be awaiting the letter in the mail. In which immediately Izuku is excited to hear that. I mean, he basically got a stamp of approval from the heroes and teachers that are already there, and he's just excited. Like, there's no way. Like, are you serious? Like, I'm gonna get in. And Izuku's he's a humble kid. So at the end of the day, yes, he is going to get in. But at the same time, it's like, how do you not understand you're going to get in? Because Izuku, he might be humble, like, in the face of everyone else, but he to an extent should know and understand the power that he truly has, and the power that he's really giving off. And he is giving off insane amounts of power that is just ridiculous, right? Power that is unable to be even fathomed at this point. But of course, he would head home. He'd be excited to wait for that letter. When the letter would arrive, it would say that he got into Class 1A or UA High School as well as the number 1 student, and it was by a long shot, breaking every single record that anyone has ever seen. And, well, let's just say Izuku Midoriya, well, he might just be the next king of UA High School. And the day would come where it's the first day of UA High School. He would walk in excited, ready, honestly excited to learn, but also excited to just train and be under the tutelage of so many different amazing heroes. I mean, they have so many different heroes from different ranges all around here. And when he enters, well, let's just say he's kind of famous in a way, because a lot of them are like, whoa, like that's the kid that did that huge spectacle, burning up all of those robots. And he even apologizes, saying that he's sorry about that. I mean, he got a little bit too excited and overwhelmed with emotion, and he kind of lit the whole place on fire. In which they say, no, it's completely fine. They still got their chance to get in, but it was so damn impressive. It was just, it was so awesome to watch Izuku do something like that. It was so awesome to watch Izuku, or somebody that they didn't know, have powers that are of that type of level, have powers that are that absolutely insane. And frankly, it's awesome. It was awesome to watch, and many of them think that he's awesome in general. Now, Bakugo himself, he's not too happy, because he knows he's not the number 1 student, and he wanted to be the number 1 student, and he starts yelling at Izuku, saying all these things. But eventually Aizawa would arrive, and he would tell them all to shut up and get ready, because they have a quirk assessment to do. They all head out there, and the quirk assessment would begin, and this is where we see how Izuku does in this version of events in terms of kind of a quirk assessment. In terms of the ball throw, I mean, he would set fire to this ball and send it spiraling insanely far. Now, probably not infinity, but extremely far, farther than what Bakugo will throw it, and he'll have the second farthest throw behind Ochaku Uraraka. But in terms of a lot of other aspects, his speed, I mean, he flies, literally can fly with his fire. He flies very, very fast. And on top of that, there's so many other things he can do in terms of his physical capabilities. It seems like the fire that is embedded within his body that allows him to have super strength, super speed, and so much more. And it basically allows him to be a superhuman, like a flat out superhuman. And his capabilities are ridiculously insane. And it's not even kind of showing his true potential, because he's not out there fighting, right? His true potential involves him fighting other people with his fire and utilizing it, and all these other things, right? That's where he benefits. That's where he gets the most of his strength. But of course, in this regard, it's a little bit more constricted. But even with the constriction, he still gets number 1 in the quirk assessment, which of course Aizawa would expect nothing less, saying that it's obvious that the kid should have got number 1 if he got number 1 in the UA Sports Festival, in which of course Izuku would even speak up a little bit and say, well, the UA Sports the UA entrance exam. I'm sorry if I said UA Sports Festival. The UA entrance exam, is a little bit different than, a quirk assessment, in which Aizawa would look at him and nod his head, thinking like, yeah, I mean, you are right, but he does expect some high level things, especially for someone that has made such an impression, in which Izuku nods his head and says that he hopes to live up to the expectations, and Aizawa says that he hopes that he exceeds the expectations. Now, with all that said and done, he would be number 1 in the quirk assessment. Nobody would get, expelled or anything like that. And if they did, they'd just be brought back the next day. And the next thing that would eventually arrive would be the heroes versus villains training. Now, in terms of Bakugo and Tenya versus him and Ochako, Izuku can straight up fly around, find the bomb, and basically touch the bomb if they so choose to do so. But on top of that, they can do so much more. They could straight up just destroy Bakugo if they wanted to, knock him out, burn him up, or whatever you want to think of. But instead, Izuku says that what will make Bakugo so mad is if they don't even fight him at all, and they just find the bomb and basically win without even seeing them, in which he helps Ochako fly around, and they basically fly around looking for the bomb through windows, eventually finding it, and he melts a window, and then they would just touch the bomb, and then it would be good to go. Izuku and Ochako would be the winners, and it would be done and dusted just like that, which would be pretty damn insane to think about and pretty damn insane to watch, because a lot of them would be like, or a lot of people would be like, whoa, that was awesome. Like, seriously, how was he able to just do that so easily? But on top of that, like, seriously, he just avoided all fights. Like, he probably could have beaten Bakugo. He probably would have beaten Bakugo. But even Izuku, yeah, he knows that he would have beaten him, but there's really no point necessarily to kind of push himself to that degree, or basically try to like fight somebody, and it gets a little out of hand for no reason. So he kind of made sure that it wasn't too big of a deal, you could say. And of course they would still win, and they would win in pretty damn good fashion and pretty damn big fashion. And of course they would be praised by All Might. All Might would say how well they did and blah blah blah, in which eventually Bakugo would be pissed off. He would tell him like, they should have fought, like blah blah blah. He shouldn't be a scared weakling, and say, and Bakugo begins to say like he should have basically given him his one-on-one, in which All Might says that that's ridiculous. That's a really, really dumb way of thinking about it, because Izuku approached things perfectly. No, there is no point of giving some sort of fair one-on-one. If you want to do that, that's fine, but that's for later on. We have, fighting training and stuff like that. That's where you will get that. But here, this is kind of a rescue-esque type of real-world situation that many may actually need to deal with in the future. And this is where you would definitely want kind of a proper plan in a proper kind of circumstance where you don't get anybody hurt, nobody gets hurt, nobody gets wounded, and everything goes extremely well. Now, after this conversation happens, Izuku's just preparing himself for whatever's next. He watches his other classmates, and eventually, after some time would pass, the next day, the next 2 days, they would actually have their next training session, which would be at the USJ. The USJ, though, would be kind of with Pro Hero, or would be with Pro Hero 13, but would also be spiraling pretty quickly into something that many would not expect, and that would be the invasion of the League of Villains. And Izuku would still get sent off into a lake, and as he gets sent off into a lake, he would be a little bit worried because he is in water, but he knows that he can still utilize his fire. So when the creatures come out of nowhere, he begins to just scorch them with fire, and they're all insanely confused. I mean, they're in water, like how is this even happening? In which Izuku would blast out of the water and would begin to heat up the water, boiling a ton of the villains in there, hurting them massively, forcing them out, as he would grab onto Asui and Mineta, flying them out as well, and then knocking out the villains with a blast of fire. And Izuku tells them that they just need to get to safety, as they would basically get out of harm's way and head off to get to a place where they're not going to be hurt. In which, as they're leaving, a portal would open up with a hand that is about to grab onto Asui's face, and Izuku thinks really quickly and grabs the wrist of the hand. As he grabs the wrist, he would begin burning the hand and would begin burning off the arm of Shigaraki, and Shigaraki's arm would literally burst into flames and would eventually kind of incinerate itself, and Izuku would watch as the ashes would fall off, and his arm would be, or one of his arms would be no more. Izuku would look back toward them, and Aizawa would be in shock to see how quick the kid reacted to it. But that is what the reality is Izuku has this power, and he continues to utilize it, and he helps Mineta and Asui out of harm's way, and Aizawa would continue cleaning up the rest of the villains until the Nomu would come surging at him, about to attack him. But Izuku would come out of nowhere, and he would land a massive blast of fire on the Nomu, sending it backwards, and which this would shock everyone, and especially would shock Shigaraki and Kurogiri, who are basically considering just leaving. I mean, Shigaraki just lost an arm, but Shigaraki refuses to leave now, especially with the coming arrival of, well, All Might, and he wants to take All Might down. He wants to end All Might. And Izuku, well, he goes face to face with the Nomu, and he lights the Nomu ablaze, and it would begin to weaken the Nomu's skin, would begin to slow its regeneration and slow him down entirely. Izuku continues blasting him with fire blast after fire blast, and it continues to kind of melt at the skin and also basically hurts the Nomu massively. Izuku tells Aizawa to basically just back him up and make sure that this Shigaraki character doesn't do anything stupid, in which eventually Izuku would make it so that the floor beneath the Nomu would begin to kind of turn into this like molten lava, and then would turn to this obsidian type of thing where it no longer can allow the Nomu to move. His feet completely stuck, and Izuku would do something very similar to Shigaraki and also Kurogiri, making it so that they are stuck in place entirely. And Izuku immediately kind of tells Aizawa to make sure that those two don't get away, and he'll make sure the Nomu doesn't get away at all. And with the arrival of All Might, that would be a guarantee. Shigaraki missing an arm, Kurogiri being stuck, and both of them being stuck in general, and also the Nomu being defeated, well, all of them would be completely outclassed here and would be stopped by many different heroes that would eventually arrive, put in cuffs and put behind bars, and eventually would be defeated. And also the rest of the villains there would be captured, cuffed, and defeated as well. And all the heroes would basically tell Aizawa that this kid right here, I mean, he might be on a different level, but he probably is going to get in a little bit trouble for burning off an arm. In which, of course, he kind of does, at least with the school. And there's a conversation that is had with Aizawa and him and many others, and Aizawa even backs him up. Aizawa tells them that without him, without basically him being there, one of the students probably would have died. In which they say that, well, then that would have fallen upon the teacher. It would have been his fault. But Izuku stands up and says that he made a decision. He'll live with whatever they decide to do, but he made a decision that he did not want to see one of his fellow students kick the bucket. So he was going to protect her no matter what. And if that meant burning off the arm of a villain that attacked them in what's supposed to be a safe place, then so be it. In which Nezu, hearing this, he would just smile, saying that this kid exemplifies being what a hero is. So they should stop giving him a hard time and allow him to prepare for the up-and-coming UA Sports Festival. In which Aizawa would smirk just a little bit and nod his head, and he would thank Nezu, and as everyone else kind of there is like, you know what, you're right, we'll let him off with a warning. In which Nezu would shake his head and tell the kid to go get prepared, because the UA Sports Festival is in the coming days, and he needs to be prepared to show the world exactly what he's capable of. And let's just say it ended up being one of the best coming out parties you will ever freaking see. Because Izuku Midoriya stands out there where he's showing that he is obviously the number one student, but he's also the number one in this school. He tells them all that, yes, he is doing his best, that everyone is going to do their best. They're going to put on a show and yada, 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 all those good things. But he also says that he is here to prove that he is the next up-and-coming greatest hero, and that he is going to be the greatest hero to ever do it. And everyone cheers, thinking like, this kid's so cool, so awesome. Yes, he is humble to an extent, but he tells them that he wants to prove it, that he's going to prove it. And of course, Izuku, well, starts out pretty damn hot, no pun intended, because in one giant blaze, he goes flying through the entirety of the obstacle course race, making it so that nobody even stands a chance. And it's a very similar case when you have the cavalry battle, when Izuku flies his team up of Tokiyami, Ochaku Araka and Mei Hatsume into the sky, and nobody can even get to them. Yes, Tokiyami can't really use his Dark Shadow, and Izuku does apologize for this, because he is still, showing light, and that's something that he'll have to work on in the near future. Maybe he can make some sort of fire that doesn't exude light, but for now, they're going to have to deal with it, and for now, it's going to have to be, a situation where, of course, that Izuku can't necessarily help out, right? He can't really do anything too crazy, you could say. Now, they still win pretty easily because, Izuku's literally floating in the sky, so it's not like they can really do anything. So, of course, this would lead him to being up and coming and ready for the very next thing, which would be the 1 versus 1s. And the 1 versus 1s, well, let's just say Izuku is more than prepared for that, because Izuku and his power and his capabilities is just absurd. The strength that he gives off, the power he gives off, and the fire that he's going to show is going to be ridiculous. His first matchup is against Satoshi Shinso, which if he's not careful, he could get caught off guard. But of course, with the help of his other classmates telling him how his quirk works, and Izuku being pretty, well balanced in terms of emotional, he kind of doesn't talk to Hitoshi Shinso, and then eventually would force him over the edge with his fire. But the true, absolute, amazing spectacle between Izuku and Todoroki would be amazing. Izuku clashing with the ice of Todoroki, and Todoroki slowing down slowly but surely as Izuku, would start overwhelming him. And Izuku would tell him, like, when are you going to use your fire side? When are you going to use that burning side of you that creates such a perfect balance between your ice and fire? Why not? Why not utilize that power? Why not utilize that fire? Why not utilize what you were given? And of course, he refuses. He's telling him, like, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to, set the place ablaze. It's not my quirk. It's not my powers. And I won't do it. In which Izuku's like, what are you talking about? That is your power. That is your quirk. You are fire and ice. Why not use your entirety of your powers and use it to its fullest extent? And Izuku tries to tell him this. And Todoroki, he doesn't know. He doesn't know if he really wants to. And Izuku tells him that he can't waste any more time with this, and he understands that he has his issues with whatever's going on, but unfortunately, Izuku's not going to just stand there and wait, and he would then immediately send a blaze toward Todoroki, in which Todoroki tries to block, but is pushed off the edge because of the fire that is ensuing, and Izuku would knock Todoroki off the stage, and everybody would be cheering on Izuku Midoriya. And Todoroki, well, he would stand up and they would have a bit of a conversation, and he would say that he definitely has to think about the usage of his own quirk, because he's right? Izuku is right. That to an extent that is Todoroki's powers, but he has to really wrap his head around truly utilizing them and truly getting a hold of them. Now, the next person he'd go against is Tenya Ida, but it would be a very easy fight. Especially Izuku Midoriya is so much faster than you could possibly imagine. And the fact is, Izuku's going to be able to overwhelm him with the heat, cut off the arena or cut off the stage, and knock him out pretty damn quickly. And this is the same thing for Bakugo. Bakugo may get his 1 versus 1, may get that moment in the sun, may get that chance to truly take on Izuku, but it doesn't matter. Taking on Izuku's one thing, beating him is another, and he won't be able to beat Izuku Midoriya, and this fight won't be a close one, because Izuku puts the absolute pause on Bakugo and puts the absolute fear of God in Bakugo, and quickly Bakugo realizes that he's falling behind, that he himself is nowhere near the power that Izuku is showing off, and frankly, he falls short in almost every respect of the imagination, and Izuku Midoriya would burn his way to a victory, and Izuku Midoriya would burn his way to beating everybody in the UA Sports Festival. and everybody would be clamoring, everybody would be excited, everybody would be cheering, thinking that Izuku Midoriya, I mean, he might be that up and coming. He might be that true next up and coming greatest hero. And everybody believes that the chances of Izuku just continuing this path, the chances of Izuku continuously showing the power that he's been giving off is just a foregone conclusion, and a foregone conclusion that will end with Izuku Midoriya standing at the top. And Izuku would be the winner of the UA Sports Festival, getting a numerous amount of agencies calling his way, agencies sending letters, agencies sending offers, so on and so forth. And Izuku would just get piles and piles and piles of tons of different people. But the one person that would always catch his eye, the one person that he would decide personally he wanted to go and train with and go work with, would be Endeavor. I mean, it's perfect when you put it into perspective. And when he gets there, he would be surprised because Shoto Todoroki would be there as well, in which Endeavor believes that having Izuku with Todoroki would allow him to become even stronger and allow him to become an even better fighter with his fire and his flames. But Izuku quickly realizes that Endeavor is far from a good person. So he works with Todoroki, but he works with Todoroki for Todoroki, not for Endeavor, not for helping that guy, not for helping the asshole that he is, but he helps Todoroki out the best he possibly can. He even learns himself that he can enhance Todoroki's firepower, basically enhancing it and making it even more powerful, and making his quirk even more powerful in general. And Todoroki, over the course of a couple days, even leading to the Hosu City incident, would be getting even stronger than you could imagine. His firepower reaching a level that Todoroki never realized it would even reach, and it's all because of Izuku Midoriya. Now, Endeavor thinks that it's because of him. It's because of, oh, he's so smart. He brought Izuku here. Now they're getting stronger together, and now his son's benefiting from it. But truly, it's because of Izuku. Izuku Midoriya is the reason why Todoroki is taking leaps and bounds in terms of strength, and he continues to get stronger and stronger over this time. Now, a face-off with the hero killer would be imminent, and a face-off with him would not be too far away, because protecting a student by the name of Tenya Ida is something that many of them are going to have to do. Basically something that they're going to have to get done, in which Tenya would be basically on the verge of death, facing off with the hero killer because of his dumb, kind of idiotic choices. And eventually it would be Izuku Midoriya and Shoto Todoroki facing off with the hero killer. And this would be a spectacle in itself. The combination of the fire that would ensue with all the power or whatever, that basically they would combine together to make a absolute heat wave, a wave of heat that seems to be unstoppable. And with the combination of the ice and the fire powers, and even the magma-like powers that Izuku knows how to utilize, I mean, it's insane. And the hero killer is just overwhelmed and burned to a crisp, to the extent where, he's not dead, but he's definitely out for the count. And luckily enough, since Endeavor has similar powers, they're able to basically tell them, like, oh yeah, Endeavor takes all the credit, and they don't get in trouble at all. Luckily enough, they're able to save their classmates in Tenya Ida, and they're able to save him and not allow him to, get caught up in some stupid, idiotic plan for revenge. But now he has learned his lesson, that his power, his strength, it's far from what it should be, and seeking out revenge, especially as a hero, is far from the conversations that really need to be heard, and honestly far from the things that should be even happening in the first place. But with all of that said and done, with the internships cut slightly short, and eventually everybody gathering together and coming together to basically start their final exams, they have a written portion of the exam to study and prepare for, but on top of that, they have something else to prepare for. They have a practical exam, and initially they think, oh, it's gonna be robots, it's gonna be this, it's gonna be that, but it's not. not just robots. It's going to be heroes. Heroes, teachers against the students in a 2 versus 1. And Izuku Midoriya might have gotten the kind of bad end of the stick when he has to team up with Bakugo to go against All Might himself. And this right here is a pretty damn hard matchup. A matchup that he was not prepared for, and frankly, a matchup that even Bakugo was far from prepared for as well. But you know Bakugo, he's a psychopath, and all he wants to do is fight, and he thinks that he could truly defeat, the one and only All Might. But of course, we know that's not the case. We know that there's no freaking way. That there's no way that they could, or he could really defeat All Might. That he could really, take him down. But of course, in the mind of Bakugo, he's thinking, I could beat him, and I could beat him by myself. And he leaves Izuku by himself, basically telling Izuku to stay out of his damn way. And Izuku, for the first minute or so, kind of just watches Bakugo get beat senseless. I mean, literally just watches him get slapped around. And Izuku would eventually be like, you know what? Okay, it's time for me to get into this fight. As he immediately surges toward All Might, casting a ton of this fire, just ton of fire around him, and trying to overwhelm All Might. Even trying to use that same idea that he used against the Nomu to entrap the feet of All Might in kind of like this obsidian, or this kind of this completely solidified magma, and he slows down All Might drastically, even kind of putting a burn on him that is going to continuously burn and burn and burn. And as it does, it slows All Might down. It makes him weaker, and it even makes him less durable. And all of these things are helping him in this fight, and everybody is watching it, and everybody is in complete awe. I mean, this right here is something nobody expected to be able to see. Nobody expected to see All Might on the back foot. All Might not able to keep up, and All Might's actually falling up short. Izuku would eventually put the cuffs, or put kind of capture tape around him, and capture tape around the wrists of All Might, and he would be defeated. It would be done, and it would be dusted, and it would no longer kind of be continuing, as Izuku has now officially defeated All Might, at least technically with the capture tape, and has technically defeated All Might in a one-on-one fight. And of course, Bakugo does get into some trouble, especially with the fact that he really didn't help very much, and he wanted to prove that he could do it on his own, and this and that. But of course, that's not the case. That was far from the case, because he was never going to defeat All Might on his own. He was never going to stand a chance on his own. He needed to work together with Izuku, but they're just lucky that Izuku and his powers are on a totally different level. Now, this is when we would lead into the forest training camp, and this would be a great time for Izuku and all the classmates that he has to continue working, training, and progressing in their powers. Because their powers, they're still at a level that they don't know they could truly grow even further at. Even Izuku, yes, Izuku Midoriya, someone who has shown godly potential and godlike powers in terms of fire, even may have enough in his system and enough powers that lay dormant to even show off kind of another level, can even show off another level of firepower. And well, when they head off to the forest training camp, they're going to be able to have that type of training that would ensue in absolute kind of really rigorous training to get even stronger, even more powerful. But the thing is, what Izuku never expected is to stand face to face with another villain, another person, and another villain that would show up with Nomus and other villains invading the forest training camp. And Izuku would stand face to face with a villain by the name of Dabi. And Dabi would stand there in front of Izuku, telling him that his powers will make great usage on the other side, great usage on the side of All for One. But Izuku tells him, that there is no way that he'll flip sides. There is no world he'll flip sides. And there's no world that they get out of here unscathed. And Izuku tells him that he might as well leave now. Might as well move away. In which Dabi throws flames at him that get immediately extinguished by Izuku. And Izuku tells him that he can tell that that isn't actually him. That is a fake version of him. Whatever person, whatever quirk that is being utilized to copy him, he knows. He can tell the fire that burns inside of him is not the fire that normally would be if it was truly his quirk. Izuku would then immediately extinguish and just obliterate this version of Dabi, and he would tell him that he's going to go looking and he's going to find him. And this entire forest, well, Izuku lights it ablaze, entirely just covering the entire forest in flames, as all the villains would be burned, not to death, but would be burned senseless and would be knocked out entirely, including villains like Muscular, who tries to even hurt a little kid by the name of Koda. Izuku would overwhelm them all with their fire, even knocking out and taking out Twice and even the real Dabi, knocking them all out and solidifying a capture over all of them. And even all of the people that are there that are part of his team, part of, UA, they would wonder, like, I mean, how does Izuku do it? How do they make it so the flames don't hurt them? But Izuku has such control over his power that he could truly do this, and he has now put down the rest of these people from the League of Villains that are supposedly going to be the up-and-coming next part of the League of Villains. But on top of that, he's knocked out and basically took out a ton of these other people or these other Nomus and or villains, and he wonders how the next few days are truly going to go, because he feels like there's something coming. He feels that All For One, or whatever person that is behind all this at the moment, which he technically doesn't know, but whoever is behind all of this is going to set up something even bigger. And Izuku Midoriya, well, he wants to be prepared for it. And after the forest training camp is cut short, after days in the hospital would go by, just for, the sake of UA and everybody, even though Izuku is not necessarily hurt and nobody else is really that hurt, they still go in the hospital for a little bit. Eventually, the TVs would turn on, and all they would see is the darkness of the night that would be behind All Might and All For One in their final battle. But Izuku is worried that it's not just All For One anymore, that they have a different thing in mind, a different creature in mind, and a different monster in mind. A monster that is running toward that location, and All Might's not ready to really win this fight without any help. Now, what's going to happen in the final and next part of What If Deku Had a Godly Fire Quirk? Well, you're going to have to find out in the next part. Izuku Midoriya now sees what's unfolding in the distance. What's unfolding through the TV screen is the fight between All For One and All Might. But the climax of this fight isn't what you are going to think it's going to be, because Izuku watches as All Might begins to lose. And the reason for this is an overwhelming amount of Nomus actually catching the eye of All Might and giving All For One the opportunity to really find his way to back into the battle. And on top of that, we have another figment of a creature approaching extremely quickly. And Izuku sees this, and with no other teachers kind of around, with other teachers, scrambling, and other heroes scrambling to try to help out, he immediately would take off, leaving a trail of fire in his wake, and he would be flying at whatever is coming to attack All Might. This creature is Gigantomachia, and it's a massive, massive issue, because Izuku, well, he sees that All Might is not only on the back foot, but he is borderline out of the fight. He's taken a blow from All For One, multiple Nomus, and then also now an absolute, basically a shoulder charge from Gigantomachia, sending him flying through multiple buildings. Izuku goes over to try to help, but realizes quickly that they need to do something about this. They need to do something about this fight. The Nomus, the Gigantomachia, everybody, it's so overwhelming. And Izuku would stand in front of a body of All Might, who is sitting there completely out of it. And Izuku is thinking to himself, that he needs to do something to help. He needs to do something to stop what they're doing right now. He stands in front of All Might and he tells them that the only way that he's going to be, or only way that All Might is going to die, is if it happens through him. In which Izuku stands there and refuses to allow them to get close, sending blasts of fire and honestly tons of like this molten lava like substance toward these creatures, toward the Nomus and all the above. And Izuku is giving it his absolute all. His skin feels like it's on fire, and he continues to burst into flames over and over again, trying to maintain this level of attack that he's really ensuing. And all for one, he even realizes that this kid, his power is immense. It's insane, but eventually the Nomus would get a hold of him and hold him still. And everybody would start swarming on him. Nomus jumping, punching, kicking. Izuku getting beat senseless as he's trying to help, and the other heroes, all they can do is watch. And all for one laughs in their weight, and all for one walks up toward Izuku and basically tells him that this is over for his young hero career. And Izuku says that all he needed was for them to get close. And he begins to erupt into flames, like a volcano erupting with magma sending all over the place. Izuku begins to erupt into this giant burning sun. And Izuku starts burning through, all for one, all the Nomus, and even burning through Gigantomachia. All Might would be helped out and dragged away so that he wouldn't be in the fire that is being created. And all for one is trying to basically stop this from happening, sending anything he can, any quirk that he used or any quirk he can utilize, trying to stop this from happening. And Izuku screams in agony and screams in pain as the flames would get hotter and hotter and hotter. Izuku eventually would create a giant dome of fire that basically is burning everything within it to ashes. And Izuku watches as his body would slowly but surely burn. And on top of that, everybody else, the Nomus, Gigantomachia, and All for One would burn with him. And eventually, all of it would be still. Everything would stand still. And all you could see for literal, like, we're talking at least 2 miles, luckily people were able to get out of the way, is just ash. Burn buildings completely to the ground. Izuku no longer controlling what hurt, what could be hurt, and who could be hurt. He knew that this was the end all be all. The fact that everyone was evacuated for the most part, luckily All Might was able to get out of harm's way with other heroes. But yes, like in like a almost 2 mile radius, Izuku burned everything to a crisp, from homes to even the villains that lay there in his wake. And all there is left over is ashes. And everybody is in shock. Everybody is in complete and utter shock, thinking that Izuku is gone. There's nothing left of him. There's nothing. But he stopped the villains. He stopped All for One. He stopped that giant creature they had no answer for. But he did it by killing them. And everybody, well, they clean up the entire place, gathering the ashes, and not even thinking like, what are they going to do? It's not like they can celebrate Izuku's ashes, because partially is filled with Nomus and All for One and all these other people and all these other creatures, but they have to celebrate him. They take all the ashes and they kind of dispose of them how you would think, and they would put them away for now, putting them in kind of like a excluded area, in a place that no one would be able to find them. And on top of that, cleaned up the entire area, and soon they would have a funeral for Izuku Midoriya. A funeral for the one that many looked at as the next up-and-coming hero. And Izuku, he would be gone. Everybody would sing his praises. Everybody would talk on who he was. But there were people out there that believed that he was no hero. That the kid burned up buildings, families lost their homes, and Izuku took it upon himself to do that. And well, All Might would stand up for the kid with the people and tell the people that lost their homes, people that lost, this or that, He tells them that a kid lost his life protecting him, protecting All Might, protecting all of them. And just so they all know that this kid is not some ordinary kid. At the end of the day, a mother lost her son. And everybody stands there in silence as they give a vow of silence for Izuku Midoriya, and they would then burn a flame in his honor. And Izuku, well, he would be gone. He'd be gone. And everybody, they would go with throughout their business normally. They would go throughout whatever they have to do normally. And they still have the thought of Izuku Midoriya in their back of their minds, not thinking about if anything will come of it. Not thinking if Izuku one day will show up, or if one day they'll ever see him once again. For a kid who felt borderline invincible, for a kid that they looked at as someone who had powers beyond belief, it seems odd to think that he fell short, that he passed on, that he lost. How? How did he lose? And so many people there, so many, Todoroki, Bakugo, so many hold on to this grief for such a long time. Through their provisional hero license exam, through their work studies, they hold this grief tighter than you could possibly imagine. Not only did Izuku lose his own life, but the number one hero, All Might, he's gone as well. Not necessarily by death, but he's gone because his powers are gone. But there's someone to hold the mantle, someone to continue that mantle, and that was Mirio Togata. Nobody knew of it just yet, but Mirio was holding on to the powers that were there, the powers that were ensuing, and well, all they could think about is the fact that, well, a kid died, a student, a hero passed on, and they're gonna have to really show everyone that they are the next generation. And just because they lost one of their best students, their best heroes, it doesn't mean that they're stopping just yet. And the next kind of challenge they're going to have is Overhaul, is the invasion of the Shihazaikai. But this is no joke. This is not easy. This is far from easy. And it's, at the end of the day, not going to be an easy thing for anybody to handle. And Izuku, well, from the other life, from the fiery pits of wherever he's came from, well, he's watching. He's watching closely, hoping, wondering, and wishing that he could help. Because Izuku Midoriya, he's not dead. Not necessarily. He's in a different space, a different area, a different plane. Not heaven, not hell, but a fiery kind of paradise. It's odd. He doesn't know what it is, where it is, and what's happening, but he watches. From the flames that surround him, the ones that don't even feel heat, Izuku Midoriya watches as Overhaul and his base would get invaded, but he also watches as the heroes slowly but surely lose their footing, and as Mirio Togata would get shot with a bullet that would cancel and or get rid of his quirk. He would watch as Sir Night-Eye would be fighting for his life. He watches and he wants. He would smack on whatever's in front of him. He would burn everything that's around him, screaming that he could help. Let him help. Let him go. Let him go. But nothing. No words, no nothing. Nothing surrounds him. No person, no God, no nothing. Nothing. He wonders, why can't he just go? Why can't he help them? And then he looks closely. He looks closely at the fight that's occurring between Sir Night-Eye and Overhaul. And all he can think about is all he needs is a chance. All he needs is a moment. And well, that moment would eventually come. Because Izuku would see a spark on the ground. A spark that would lead to a little flame, and Izuku would feel that there's something there that he could go through, that he can enter, he can join, and eventually he would focus so heavily that his body would turn to ashes once again, and then his revival would ensue. A creature of some sorts, a phoenix, would be born from this small flame sitting behind Overhaul, and Overhaul would be in shock. What the hell is that? Izuku would form into this phoenix and go flying toward Overhaul, smacking him into a wall and burning him so badly that he is completely out of oxygen and knocked out entirely. The phoenix would float above. The flame begins to dissipate as it would basically travel over to Izuku, dissipating entirely on the ground, and Izuku would float in the air, wings flapping, and the phoenix staring at Sir Night-Eye. Sir Night-Eye is confused. What the hell is that? What's happening? What is going on? And eventually, the phoenix would then crumble to dust, to ashes, but then the ashes would light a blaze, and as the blaze would be so bright, not even their eyes could truly see it. And immediately when Sir Night-Eye would watch as the brightness would go away, and as he can look once again, he would see something. The kid. He would see the green hair, the green suit, and he would see Izuku Midoriya. He would be looking at Sir Night-Eye, and he would tell him that he was watching everything, watching it all, and he hopes that it wasn't too big of a deal, that he was, he decided to hop in and help out. In which Sir Night-Eye is in shock. This is the same kid that died. He's the same kid that sacrificed his life for All Might. In which they cuff Overhaul really quickly. They get everyone else in cuffs and all these people, and Sir Night-Eye walks up to Izuku. And Izuku says he knows that he doesn't know him, and he knows, but as he's about to say more, Sir Night-Eye gives him a hug. And he tells him that he thanks him for saving All Might. And he wonders, how did he even get here? How is this even possible? And Izuku looks at him and says, he doesn't know. He doesn't. He doesn't know if he's going to be here forever, or if he doesn't know if he's going to be here for a short amount of time. But it seems like the fire once burned once again, and the fire and the flame was burning brighter than ever. And Izuku tells him, and as long as he's here, he's going to make the most of it. And Izuku begins to head out to everyone, and a lot of people want explanations, but Izuku really, he doesn't have them. He doesn't really have any explanations for anybody. He doesn't really have any information for anybody. He really doesn't have anything for anybody. I mean, everyone's confused. Everyone's kind of like, what the hell is happening? What's going on? And at the end of the day, Izuku is none the wiser. But he does tell him that he was gifted a chance, an opportunity, and he will not squander it. This opportunity being that he has risen once again from the ashes of his own body, and whatever brought him back gave him powers beyond belief. And whatever brought him back gave him the ability to truly still stand with everybody here. Now, for starters, he would go through quite of a lot of predicaments. I mean, at the end of the day, he was dead. So they have to figure out all that. Secondly, he literally killed a bunch of people. Like, that is something that definitely happened, which he won't be let off on necessarily, but he won't be in massive trouble. But there is a court of public opinion, and there's people, quite a few of them, even though All Might believes that he should be let off. All Might believes that Izuku, he did nothing wrong, at least necessarily. And but there's still a court of public opinion, and a lot of them believe that Izuku's not really fit to be a hero, at least not yet, and far from it. And Izuku says that he'll do whatever it takes. He'll go through what he has to go through. And Izuku goes through his schooling, same as he always would. And at the end of it all, at the very end, when he's graduating from UA High School, there's still questions. Still a lot of questions. A ton of them. Questions on if Izuku should be allowed to still become a hero. If Izuku should truly be a hero, even though, well, he did the things he did. It might have been for the good of whatever, for the safety of everyone else. but it doesn't mean that people didn't die. Doesn't mean that people didn't pass on, and it doesn't mean that damage wasn't made. But Izuku says that he doesn't care if he becomes a hero, is a hero, or is this or that. As long as everyone was safe, as long as the safety was ensured, that is what matters. And hearing this sways a lot of people. And frankly, there isn't enough people now that don't believe that Izuku Midoriya is a hero or could potentially be a great hero for them to, make a decision like not allowing Izuku to eventually become the hero he believes he could truly be. And that right there is the reality. That right there is what's going to happen. And Izuku Midoriya, after his 3 years, his 3 long years of being at UA, and after his 3 years of training, working hard, and doing all of these crazy things, he would finally have his chance to become a full-fledged hero. Finally gaining his chance to become the hero he knows he can be. And there's one person that not only vouches for him, not only believes in him, but one person that wants him to basically move up and be a top hero right beside him, and that is Sir Night-Eye. Someone who is very, very high on Izuku Midoriya, and someone who really, really thinks that Izuku has a place in this beyond anyone else. And of course, there also is Mirio Togata, who believes very highly as well of Izuku Midoriya, leading them to taking him under their wing, and eventually all of those doubts of him becoming a hero, all of those doubts about, could he do this, could he do that, is he ready, should he be held accountable for what he did, all of those questions, well, they were answered. And everybody in the court of public opinion would eventually realize that Izuku Midoriya is truly going to be their hero, and is truly going to be the next big hero before you even know it. And that's exactly what he does. He blazes a kind of trail for himself and becomes a hero that not only did many expect him to be, but also what a lot of people couldn't even imagine what he could be. From the ashes to the flames, Izuku Midoriya has now arrived once again, and he has proven from when he was a student to now that he was a hero, or now that he is a hero, he would sacrifice his own life to save everyone that surrounds him, and he'll do that without a single question. But that right there is where this story ends. The story of Izuku Midoriya having a godly fire quirk. And if you enjoyed, please show some love. Leave a like, leave a sub, and leave a comment down below. All that good stuff. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and this series, and I hope all y'all have an amazing day. Later.